Well, hey friends, welcome to the Plaid X2 channel. My name is John. On this channel, we talk all things physical media, some movies, music, and books. If you're into that kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe down below for more of that kind of content. Well, friends, this is episode number 16 of the 5. I can't believe we're at episode 16 already. I'm really enjoying this series and getting to know different movie collectors in the Instagram and YouTube communities. So I'm very glad you're here for the 16th episode. And this one is with Mel from My Killer Podcast. This was a lot of fun, this conversation. So I really hope you enjoy it. Down below in the description box will be all of her social media contacts. So please do subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. And she's got a great channel, very high energy, and it was a lot of fun to have this conversation. And she brought a ton of films to this conversation that have never made it to any episode of the 5, and films that I'd never heard of. So I hope you enjoy this one. I hope you have a pen and paper out, because you're going to be able to write down some films you should probably add to your wish list or to your list to films to check out. So anyway, friends, this is episode number 16, and I hope you enjoy it. This is with Mel from My Killer Podcast. So here we go.
It ended up being entertaining, but yeah, it's a vampire musical.
I know for sure that I'll never buy it, but I'm absolutely watching the trailer in about an hour.
Yeah, it's really mystical and magical and dark, and it has unicorns. And then no list would be complete if I didn't mention the Burbs.
It's literally right here. We were going through the list, and I was like, she hasn't said Burbs yet. Like, it has to be coming. And if it wasn't, I was going to ask. No, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor. I hope I don't disappoint.
We'll all know in the comments below if anyone has disappointed anyone.
I'll leave myself a comment and I'll be like, I'm so disappointed in you.
Yeah, please don't do that. I did a live stream the other day, and I laughed. There's 3 or 4 comments in a row destroying me at how useless I am on 80s films. And so I'm sure the comments will let us know how we did. So,
well, you kind of deserve that one though, because you did say in your video, you're like, I know nothing about the 80s, or I need 80s recommendations.
I did. I just thought there'd be a little more grace and I wouldn't be attacked as viciously as I was. It's all good. None. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm looking forward to this. And I think this is episode number 16. So welcome. And I'm looking forward to this. Before we get into the 5, I do have 2 questions for you. Okay. And the first one has to do with the background you record in front of. What's the inspiration? What is the inspiration, and how did that come to happen? Because you and I have the polar opposite backgrounds. I have what depression looks like, and yours is like exciting and like engaging. And
it's almost like circus though, kind of, right? A little over the top.
I think it's great. I remember the first time I saw the thumbnail for yours, I was like, oh, that's what a background's supposed to look like, because what I have is a gray wall. So
it suits you though, because you're very sophisticated. So, and I'm very clearly not.
I feel like this is what Eeyore would have for a back wall. So
and this is what a hot mess would have.
So what was the inspiration for it? Like because I mean, people do the wall of movies a lot of times. They'll have the statues and everything. So when you were putting the idea together, like where did this come from?
Well, I'm kind of a victim of circumstance first and foremost. I can't record in my house, so I'm out in my garage. Okay. I'm looking at my car right now. So this is just like, the particle board wall that you would have normally in a garage or whatever. So I needed something back here. I didn't want that to be my background. And originally I had started my YouTube channel more than a year ago. And I had a whole different channel and a whole different setup. And then it was time for a change. So because this originally was like a haunted forest back here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just didn't feel like it was me. It was almost too into the horror stuff, So I wanted something brick, I think is what my initial thought was. So I started looking online for brick backgrounds, and then I saw this one and I was like, ooh, that is really cool. So I bought it and I put it up and I was like, this is fantastic. You know what I need? Lights. And then the ideas just kept piling up from there. And then I ended up with these colored lights because I was wandering around Menards and I was like, ooh, those are cool.
That's awesome.
So I kind of change them up with either the season or depending on if, you know, what movie I'm talking about or something like that. So I did a review for the Batman, so I made them red. And then I really kicked myself because when I did my unboxing for the Ghostbusters box set, I wanted them green and I didn't turn them green. So I was like, oh, I'm so mad. So now they're like the, you know, these things that either make me happy or mad if I don't change them.
Well, it's awesome. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's funny that I had no idea that you were looking at your car while you're doing these. So
yeah. That's why my audio sometimes it sounds echoey almost because I'm loud. I'm really loud when I'm doing my videos. I don't know why. I can't control it. So I echo in here. So I tried to buy like a really new nice microphone to cut down on that. But every once in a while you can hear the train in the background. People will be like, was that a train? Yes, it was.
There is.
Yeah. So I got like outside sounds and stuff, but it's okay. It, you know, I come out here and I'm all by myself then. I don't have to worry about people walking around me or sleeping babies or anything like that.
Nice. So I'm at work. I film at work because the internet's much better than at home. So my collection is at home, which is why I don't ever have collection in videos. So I'm super limited on the wall. So when I remember the first time seeing that, I was like, oh man, that's really creative and good. And yeah. And gray is not. Well, then my second question for you is this. You are an 80s fan. I am not so much, I don't have a hatred for it. It's a blind spot. So I'm putting together a video though, to show that I do have at least some 80s in my collection. Nice. But it's not all that impressive. And it's like all of Star Wars, all of Rocky, all of Indiana Jones. So it's like, there's a lot of franchise in there to get me like halfway.
Gotcha.
But if you were to say, here are like 3 to 5 films from the 80s, that would be a good starter pack for someone who does not have an 80s collection. What would you throw out there?
This is so unfair.
And they don't necessarily have to be from the movies you're going to talk about. Maybe some stuff.
There are quite a few in here, though.
Okay.
Well, let me see. You're putting me on the spot.
And even some, because you mentioned, I think you had mentioned somewhere recently that you even like you're into like even like 80s B movies, like some stuff that might not even be mainstream.
Oh, cheesy B horror movies are my jam.
Okay.
So my mom is where I got my love for horror, which seems really strange, but it is. That's why I call her my momster.
Okay.
And she was the original collector of the family. So she just has a ton of VHS movies and she still has them. So like The Stuff and Ghoulies and, you know, American Werewolf in London and Chud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like she has all of these movies. So this is where my love for cheesy B horror movies came from, because those were what she watched, like Night of the Demons. And what else does she have? She just has so many of them. But that's, you know, she's the reason I've seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space and The Lost Boys and, you know, all the Stephen King movies like Pet Sematary and just, yeah, she's the reason for all of it. So any of those movies are cheesy B horror goodness, but also really terrible.
Now, does she still watch those on VHS?
She does. She still has a VHS player. She has one of those dual DVD VHS players, but it still works. So I was literally just over there the other day and she was making us watch VHS tapes. I was like, what are you doing? I bought her a Blu-ray player for Christmas because I was like, I've had it. I cannot take it anymore. I love the nostalgia of VHSs, but man, nobody wants to watch that blurry mess when you've got a 4K over here. You know,
I feel like the 80s, I have I feel like the 80s might be like the best excuse to watch VHS. Like if you're going to watch like a 90s VHS, I wouldn't be as interested in watching a VHS from the 90s or early 2000s, but an 80s VHS, I almost feel like this is an experience, you know?
Yeah, it's very nostalgic. This is true.
Then again, I haven't watched a VHS in like 20 years, so yeah.
It's definitely an experience because as soon as she popped that tape in there, there was like the little fuzz line at the bottom. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, you just watch movies like this all the time. And she was like, yeah, why?
That's amazing. I respect that commitment though.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny too, because we were having like a family thing. So I was like, well, let's watch a family movie. And she was like, yeah, sure. So she went over into her collection, pulled out Liar, Liar on VHS. I'm like, I just bought that.
That's hilarious.
From Shout Factory. I could have brought it. And here we are watching the VHS.
That's amazing.
Wow. It's funny. It's really funny.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. There's I've never heard of probably like almost all of the movies you just said.
Oh, so, no.
That's good. I think I've heard of like one of them, but well,
perfect.
It is perfect. That's what this is for. So this is, for those of you who are watching for the first time, this is for 3 reasons: to talk movies, to get to know a fellow collector a little bit more, and for 25 film recommendations. So yeah. So you ready for question number 1?
Heck yeah.
Awesome. What 5 films have you most recently seen?
Okay, so this is a little embarrassing.
I mean, you technically could lie to get out of that, but
I thought about it because I was like reading the questions and I was thinking, oh man, there's so many cool movies I could talk about. But then I was like, I got to be honest.
I respect your integrity.
Okay, so the first one is Rockula.
Rockula? That's hilarious.
So the reason why this is one of them is because I just bought this from the Scream Factory sale that just happened recently. And I was like super excited for it because I'd never seen it before. And it sounds just dumb. So that's my jam. And it kind of is. It's a vampire musical. It ended up being entertaining, but yeah, it's a vampire musical.
I know for sure that I'll never buy it, but I'm absolutely watching the trailer in about an hour.
I mean, I'm almost positive you could probably just pull this up on Prime or something. Really? I don't know.
That's hilarious.
I know that this is why I was like, no, not my last 5 movies, because I have Letterboxd, so it was really easy just to go over there and see what my last 5 were, and I was like, crap. Okay, so the next one is The Batman, because I just recently went to the movie theater to see that, and then I posted a review of it. Gave it 4 stars if you were curious. I don't know how much you really want me to say about that one, since
it's your review is a spoiler review, is that correct?
Yeah.
So I haven't watched it because it is a spoiler review. I've watched a couple of non-spoiler reviews and I'm very excited to watch it. So 4 stars, so it's pretty good then.
Yeah. Okay. So I usually like to do a non-spoiler review and then have like spoilers at the end where I can like stop people, but I just couldn't speak about this movie and not ruin it.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's just a spoiler review.
I'm supposed to see it on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. It's going to be so good. Okay, so the next one is I watched Fresh on Hulu. It just came out on streaming. This one was hella good time. I liked this one quite a bit. I'm not going to spoil it because it just came out, but it has Sebastian Stan in it. That's his name, right? He was in that Marvel movie. Captain Winter Soldier. He was Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Okay. He's in it. And I was almost in the beginning like, oh, he's in this. I don't have any feelings about him either way. He doesn't make or break a movie for me, but I was kind of like all of a sudden judging what kind of movie it was going to be based off of him being in it. But man, was it fun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a thriller. I don't want to say it's even a horror because it's not And subject matter is kind of horrifying, but it's not really a horror movie. It's more like a suspense thriller type of thing. But it was really fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I hope we get a physical release of that one. Does Hulu do that? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just writing on my list. I have for my lists. So.
Well, watch the trailer for that one. I highly recommend that if you have.
Okay, cool.
The next one I watched was Communion, because this just came out from Scream Factory. And I believe this one was limited. I think they only came out with like 6,000 copies of this one. Although I wish they would have numbered it in some way. I don't see a number on it. But anyway, it's a fun alien movie, and it's kind of like Fire in the Sky, I would say. Christopher Walken. Oh my God, I blanked on his name. I was like, oh my God, he's right there in the picture. It has Christopher Walken in it. I'm not going to lie. I thought this was going to be just kind of a suspenseful alien movie, but it ended up being like one of the weirdest movies I've watched in a while.
Really?
It's very weird.
Write this down.
I'm glad I got it. I'll probably watch it again. It's not going to be for everybody, I don't think.
Okay.
And then the last one. Oh, did you have a question about that one?
Yeah. What year did that come out? Is that like a new film?
No, this one came out in 1989.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, 89.
All right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Christopher Walken did an amazing job in this one, and the performances were great, and it was filmed good, and some of the special effects were kind of cheesy, but it was like, you don't really know if they were supposed to be that way or not, because it's just so weird. It just was weird. I don't know.
Okay,
it's hard to explain without spoiling it. And then the next one is Alley Cat. This one came out from Vinegar Syndrome. I actually watched this one in preparation for Kenny Level's 1984 month, but it ended up being a terrible movie, so don't bother.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. Which kind of made me sad, because it's kind of a lady butt kicker movie, like, don't mess with this chick, she'll kick your butt, So I was excited about that, because I really like movies like that. But this one was it was over the top. It was cheesy. The dialogue was terrible. It was like, here's this movie that's trying to promote women being strong and being able to take care of themselves. But then all of the dialogue is the exact opposite. It's like just all of these men talking down to these women and taking advantage of them. And yeah, just totally trying to wreck. Yeah, it wasn't good. I mean, it's a really nice addition with this awesome slipcover. This was a blind buy for me, though. I bought it strictly based off of the trailer, because I was like, yeah, she's kicking butt karate style. I love it. And it wasn't good.
That's the worst, when you do the blind buy and you're so excited. You're like, this is going to be fantastic. It looks great. The trailer was great. And then you're disappointed.
Yeah.
Those are the worst.
Yeah, I was really, because I was excited for this one, but what can you do? You can't win them all. You can't win them all. All right, I think that's all of them.
That's it. Yeah, that's 5. Next question, number 2. What 5 films do you have some of your earliest memories from?
All right, these ones were the hardest for me, because I have a hard time remembering my childhood. It's like one big blur of hundreds and hundreds of movies, and I can't remember which one came first, which one came last, so I picked the ones that I remember being like the ones I watched over and over and over again when I was a kid. So that's where I'm going. So the first one was Drop Dead Fred. This one was literally one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, because what kid doesn't want an imaginary friend?
And this just came out on Blu-ray.
This one just came out from Vinegar Syndrome too. So, sometimes they come out with some good stuff. But watching this later on in life, because I did watch this recently when I got this release, because I wanted to check it out, it doesn't feel like a kid's movie to me anymore. When I was a kid, it felt like a kid's movie, It was lighthearted, this girl running around with her imaginary friend, wreaking havoc and whatnot. But then when I watch it now, it's like you see all of the underlining social commentaries, like verbal abuse towards your children,
wow.
and spousal abuse towards adults, and and like emotional trauma, and that kind of thing is basically what happens to this girl and why she has her imaginary friend in the first place. So it's almost a little sad now.
Really? So your
I
whole
still like
experience
it.
is different.
Yeah, it was completely different. I still
Wow.
like it, but I like it for different reasons now.
Okay.
You know?
Wow.
So yeah, that one was real strange. And I was like, it's not a kid's movie. It's not a kid's movie, Mom. You're going to see that none of these really are. So the next one is Little Monsters. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's so
I've
good.
never seen it.
Oh, dude, it has Howie Mandel in it. He plays
No
the
way.
monster. Heck yeah.
Monsters.
So this one's just basically about, how kids think they have monsters under their bed. Well, Fred Savage really does, and this is his monster. And they go and they hang out and they have shenanigans, and Howie Mandel takes him down to the monster world under his bed. So it's super fun, but it also doesn't come off quite like a kid's movie anymore because it's kind of scary. Once they get down into the monster world, there's like bad monsters and they're like trying to like hurt them and stuff. So it does get kind of scary, but really good flick. This is a Vestron release. So the slipcover is really awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, there's that one.
It is funny when you watch a film that you watched as a kid later on as an adult, and you're like, oh, I don't think I'd let a kid watch this.
Yeah.
Content, language. You're like, oh, are there jokes that happen that you're like, oh, that went right over my head, but kids shouldn't watch this show.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time because my mom she wasn't unfiltered, but if she was watching something, she wasn't going to stop watching what she was watching just because we were there. She's just like, you can either hang out or you can go play, but whatever. So we watched a lot of stuff that we probably shouldn't have. So the next one is Legend. This is a fantastic adventure fantasy movie. It has Tom Cruise in it. And it's basically a battle of good and evil. It's a Ridley Scott film. This is an Arrow release. This is one of their groovy box set limited edition releases. This is an amazing movie. So if I had to highly recommend one of them, it'd be this one. Because it's cool. It's really mystical and magical and dark. And it has unicorns.
Now, is this like the only way you can get it on Blu-ray? Are they the only label that has released it? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you can get I think you can get a regular release. I also have a DVD too. So, cool. But yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
It's a really good movie. It's dark and scary too. It's not really a kid's movie. The next one is Labyrinth. I mean, this one is no surprise. I'm sure this was part of every kid's childhood. David Bowie and his spandex. Just a fun little puppet movie. It's kind of a musical. Yeah,
there's one that I never saw it, but the image is what, as in your childhood, I absolutely remember seeing the image. Like whenever time you go to rent movies, I always saw it there, but I've never seen it. So
unfortunately, I don't think this one's going to hit quite the same unless you see it as a kid.
Okay.
I do recommend watching it. It's like Legend. It's a fun fantasy adventure. But it has these like groovy puppets in it. It's funny because I think they may have scrubbed the new ones, but I have this one on VHS and that's how I used to watch it when I was a kid. And you could see the strings on the puppet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think maybe now that they've, restored it and all the things, they might've scrubbed those, but
okay.
Yeah, that was kind of one of those movies. Like, remember The Dark Crystal?
Yeah.
It's another puppet movie. Like back in the day, you could totally see the strings in that movie.
And back in the day, you didn't care. Like, you didn't see it. It didn't ruin it for you. Where today, you're like, wow, the production of this is really bad.
Yeah. I don't know if it would ruin it for me today, but in like my teenage years and my early 20s, I would have been like, oh, that's Okay, and the last one, and I feel like I've been talking about this movie a lot lately, but The Lost Boys. So I used to watch this one all the time when I was a kid. This is one of my favorite movies. This ended up being my number one favorite vampire movie.
Nice.
Because the casting is absolutely perfect. The story is fun and it's timeless. I think it's timeless because it's from the 80s and it definitely has like that 80s vibe, but you know how the 80s never really die, and you watch this with its new Blu-ray restoration and it's like you're watching a movie that just got made.
That's cool.
And it's just a fantastic vampire movie, and it has the Coreys in it. I'm a big fan of the Coreys.
I know. I think in the because the decade that we did on that with Tim Talks Talkies, you chose the Coreys.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been talking about them a lot too lately.
Well, I think every channel has like, you hear people talk about, I know people call me out on what I talk about all the time. So I think people just have their natural affinities to certain actors and actresses, and they come up all the time. So
that could be true.
Yeah.
That could be true.
Cool. Well, that's a great list. Yours is much more impressive and artistic. Mine's like Benji and Ernest Saves Christmas. And
I loved the Ernest movies.
They're great, but yours are like legendary films. Mine are like kind of films, But for my earliest memories.
That happens. But
yeah,
I could have put the Ernest films in this too. It's just I don't feel like I watched them as much as I watched these,
Yeah.
But I can't even remember watching cartoons. Like I'm sure I watched Saturday morning cartoons, but now for the life of me, the only thing I can remember was Thundercats.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
Or maybe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the cartoon. Oh, and Inspector Gadget. So I remember watching Saturday morning cartoons, but as far as having like movies, my mom never had those cartoony, like she'll buy them now. But she never had them then. So it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. I don't think we owned much cartoon wise. I remember when The Simpsons came out and my parents were like, you can't watch this. He has such a bad attitude. I was like, I think it's okay. Like, no, he has a terrible attitude. And then that was like 2 years and you're watching it. But.
Right. I feel you there because we didn't have cable or anything like that. We literally had one of those huge satellite dishes that were like the size of a car out in our yard. So we were like ripping off whatever we could as we pointed this giant thing. So we didn't have cable, but every time me and my brother would go to my grandma's house, she had cable and we'd watch Beavis and Butthead.
Oh yeah.
My mom would get so mad when she'd find out we watched it, but it's like, you got to watch it when you're there because when you go home, you don't have cable.
Yeah. I grew up without cable. And other than, I can only remember owning the first Ninja Turtles movie on VHS. Everything else we had on VHS, my dad taped off the television. So like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, everything had commercials from the 80s in the film. So
yeah, we used to do that too.
Yeah.
Or my grandpa had this really groovy setup where he had two VHS players on top of each other, and then he had them corded up, connected to each other, or not to each other, but to the TV. So then he would play one VHS on the TV, and then he'd put a record, like a blank VHS in the other one, and then he'd record the movie on the TV, and then that's how we got our movies. They were recorded movies, but they were recorded of actual VHS movies. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
I know. It was like an olden day pirate.
He was bucking the system. Yeah. That's really cool. I've never heard of that idea.
Yeah, it's funny because my mom still has VHSs where there's like 3 movies on one blank tape.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is wild. I respect that. It's great.
Yes. Back then it just seemed normal, but now it's like, damn, Grandpa, you were awesome.
One of those things where you could have started a business out of your garage. Like,
oh my God.
You know?
Yeah. Selling bootleg tapes.
Wow. It's very 80s, but that'd be awesome.
Typical.
That's cool. Number 3, what 5 films have had the greatest impact on you? It can be emotionally, worldview, altering your life perspective, any of those kinds of things.
Okay, so this one was actually, it was one of the easier ones because it's almost like I know immediately the movies that I've watched that changed my life in a certain way or another. But the first one, oh my God, being Who's That Girl? So this is a movie starring Madonna, and she's kind of a rebel. And this is just one of it. It's like a romantic comedy in a way, but so Madonna's like in jail. She gets out of jail and she's trying to find the person that put her there because she was like wrongly put there. And then she meets this guy who is, you know, just like he's a suit, you know, and she has to deal with him throughout the whole movie. And then they end up like falling in love at the end or whatever. But she's such a badass in this movie. And she runs around in these like outrageous leather outfits. And she was just so fashionable in this movie. And her attitude was just like, I don't give a crap, you know? So it just really made me feel empowered as a woman.
That's awesome.
Back then, I clearly was not a woman, but this was 1987. But this was, by far one of my favorite Madonna movies too. It's fun. It's lighthearted.
Yeah. Cool.
The next one, and I picked this one surely because this is where I get my cheesy B horror love, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's definitely exactly what it sounds like. It's about space aliens that come to Earth and they look like clowns and they're killing people and putting them in cotton candy cocoons. So it's super fun. It's super cheesy. The VHS actually had a music video at the end where there was a song written specifically for this movie. And it was so good. Me and my brother used to love that song.
No way.
Yeah, it was like, it had this whole guitar riff and everything in it. It was so great. But yeah, if you haven't seen this one, it's worth checking out just because it's wild and it's fun. Is it a great movie? No.
So does the Blu-ray release have the music video that was at the end of the VHS?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
I wonder if this one does though. So I have the regular Blu-ray release, but this is the Steelbook, and I've never opened this one because I had the other one. No, I don't think so.
No.
It says "and more" underneath special features, but I don't know. I'm going to say no.
Sure.
I tried to look it up online too one time, and I don't think I could find it. Maybe it'd be on there now. I don't know.
Wow.
And the next one, I don't know why I grabbed the VHS because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to find the DVD, but then I ended up finding the DVD. But Gleaming the Cube. So this one's starring Christian Slater, and it has a young Tony Hawk in it. And it's a skateboarding movie, but it actually has an underlining story where Christian Slater's brother gets murdered and he's trying to figure out who did it and why. And he just happens to be part of this group of kids that skateboards. This one was very impactful to me because this actually inspired me to skateboard. So when I was in college in Chicago, that was my transportation, was skateboarding around. Really? And it was pretty much because I watched this movie when I was a kid. So dorky. I don't know about this release though. So I had the VHS, and then I was trying to find this one on DVD and I couldn't find it. So I ended up, I think this might be either on demand release.
Okay.
Or it's like a bootleg or an overseas, because it has this thing on it.
Yeah.
But that's not your typical European label. And this is what the back looks like. It doesn't really have much on it. Isn't that weird?
It is.
It looks weird. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what kind of release this is, but wow. It's a really good movie. But this one has Vestron on it. So Vestron came out with Dream a Little Dream recently. So there is absolutely no reason why they can't release this one. And I would absolutely love it if they did.
Well, it's amazing what these boutique labels are doing now, like putting out such incredible films that everyone has wanted for so long. So who knows? Maybe it's on the way.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I know I'm not the only one that's excited about that one to come out. So hopefully Vestron gets on that.
Yeah.
Because that would be a really groovy release too. It would be just like Dream a Little Dream. I bet it would have just an awesome slipcover on it. And the last one is Pump Up the Volume. This is another Christian Slater. This one inspired me to start my podcast. So this was one of my favorite. I say one of my favorite because I don't like to say I have a favorite movie just because I love so many movies, but this is one of my favorite movies. It's basically about Christian Slater. He's a teenager in high school, and his dad bought him this radio system or something like that to put in his room so he could communicate with his friends that he had moved away from. But instead, he creates his own like little radio station. It's like a little indie radio station where he just like talks to the air and he'll play music. And he has a lot of dialogue in here where he just talks about being young and being a teenager and what it's like in school. And he'll have people write to him, and if they leave a phone number, he'll call them, and then they'll have dialogue via phone call. It's a really inspiring movie about what it's like to be a teenager in school. And that inspired me to start my podcast because it was just like being able to put your voice out there and not have to worry about repercussions from like immediate repercussions from conversations. You can talk deeply about whatever you want, and hopefully somebody is listening to you and like jiving with what you're saying, you know?
Yeah.
Clearly I'm not saying anything important, but he did. So check this one out. And yeah, his motto is talk hard.
And that's a Warner Archive release.
This is a Warner Archive release.
Cool.
So I bought this on Amazon because I had it on streaming. I had the VHS. I don't think I do anymore. But I wanted the physical. So I ordered it from Amazon, and it came in, and I was like, holy crap, this is Warner Archive. I didn't know that.
Wow. And what year did it come out?
That's really cool. Huh?
What year did that one come out on?
This one came out 1990.
Okay. I've never heard of that. I want to check that out.
Yeah, this one is really good. I'd highly recommend this one. This is about as sophisticated as I get.
I don't know. Rockula is incredibly impressive. I can guarantee you this is episode 16. Not a single person has mentioned Rockula. And so that's impressive.
I need to go get my top hat.
It's awesome. That's one of the things I love is that in all of these conversations, like 16 times 25, like that's a lot of movie recommendations. So it's great when you have lists that are just so unlike all of the other lists, and most people's don't match at all. And so it's been really cool. So Rockula is definitely a first.
I think that's what's great about your specific questions, because it opens it up to so much more, and it opens it up to people and their specific childhoods or their specific tastes or their specific, movies that inspired them, depending on what movies they see, because I've been on another video. We talked about this a little bit, but my first horror movie, and I watched several of those, but it's like, we're all kind of the same age, so a lot of the first horror movies were kind of the same, but in this list, it's just, there's so many more possibilities to fill it out. So it's super fun.
Yeah, good. Well, I always enjoy getting this list that is so diverse. And the people I've done these conversations with are all different ages from totally different parts of the country, grew up in different circumstances. And so it's really unique to see what films click with people. In whatever period of their life. And so, so it's fun.
Well, that's why I was so nervous, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get on there like the garbage pail kid that I am, and be talking about the cheesy B horror movies that I watch that are like.
I loved Garbage Pail Kids in the 80s. I will say that. So if you had that movie, I would have been incredibly impressed, because I loved it. So I remember getting the cards, buying them, and my mom being mortified, just like Those are disgusting, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Why would you have those? There's snot all over that child's face. I'm like, Mom, it's amazing. It's so cool.
That's so funny because we were just talking about this weekend because we had a family gathering. My brother was home. So we were just talking about all this stuff and he brought up the Garbage Pail Kids. And my mom was like, I remember I used to have to rent that for you guys all the time. That was so gross. It's like, that's the best part about it though. Yeah. I think half of the reason why we rented it so many times was because we knew she thought it was so gross.
Sure. The reaction. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Oh, so fun.
Cool. Well, question number 4, what 5 films do you consider to be underrated films?
Okay. This one, I don't know. This one was a little harder just because I didn't know if I should go with movies that I thought like everybody has seen and just didn't like, but I thought was great, or if I should go with movies that nobody even talks about. And I don't know if people even know what these are. So would that be underrated or just?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I did.
Cool. Those are both great takes.
Okay. So I went with movies that I don't normally hear people talk about, and it's a shame. The first one is A Life Less Ordinary. This is a Cameron Diaz, Ewan McGregor movie. I love it so much. And it's sorry, I'm getting a little excited about this one. It's a little weird too. So Ewan McGregor's character loses his job in the beginning, and just on a whim, he kidnaps the boss's daughter because he's like, you screwed me. So I'm going to kidnap your daughter and make you give me the money I deserve, whatever. Anyway, so, but in the grand scheme of the world, they were meant to be together, but because they got into this weird predicament, fate had to intervene. So God sends 2 angels down who then have to somehow make these 2 fall in love with each other. So it's really weird.
Interesting.
And it's kind of thrilling and suspenseful. It crosses some lines, but it's fun, it's fun and lighthearted, but it's like, at some point the angels are like, oh, we gotta make a traumatic experience happen because, people always fall in love when they get into a traumatic experience. So they like pretend to like try and kill them, so they're like on the run, but they're angels. So they're clearly not trying to like really hurt them. So then finally in the end, they're just like, we give up. These 2 they're never going to fall in love. So then they quit being angels in heaven. And then I don't know. It's funny. I highly recommend it. It's adorable, but it doesn't have any other release other than a DVD.
Oh, really? No Blu-ray release on it.
So, I mean, that's going to be the trend with the rest of these is they're not getting the releases they deserve. Mm-hmm. And people aren't talking about it, but it's a really good movie. So I highly recommend checking that one out.
Cool.
The next one is Foxfire. So this is an Angelina Jolie movie, and it's basically just a coming of age of this group of rebellious girls in high school. So there's all of these girls going to high school, and Angelina Jolie, she's kind of like, I don't know if she's a runaway or a drifter or what, but she ends up coming to this high school, and something happens that brings all these girls together. And then it's just their story of friendship and stuff that happens after that. It's kind of just a drama, I guess, a coming of age chick flick. I don't know. I feel like, the guys can get a good watch out of this too. But anyway, cool. So Foxfire. The next one is The Salton Sea. I absolutely loved this one in college. I watched it all the time. It has Val Kilmer in it, and it's basically about his wife gets murdered. So he, in an effort to try and get the police to solve her crime, he found that they just didn't care. They weren't doing the job that he needed them to do. So he put himself into this drug world to try and find out who murdered her in the situation that they were in. And to make it more believable, he actually became a drug addict.
Wow.
And then he became a rat for the police so that he was getting information from both sides. So it's kind of a sad one, but it's also, It's action-y. You're following him through this movie trying to find the murderer of his wife or whatever, but it's actually really good.
What year did that one come out?
This one was 2001. Yeah, 2001.
After all of these conversations, I literally go home, I eat cereal, and I watch trailers for like an hour and a half. So this was on my list.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do that too. Every once in a while when I watch a YouTube video, I'm like, what's that movie? And then I'm over here on my phone looking up the trailer. The next one is Night Watch. This one is a horror, and it has Ewan McGregor, Josh Brolin, Patricia Arquette, and Nick Nolte in it. Nick Nolte is so creepy, but this one it's kind of a scary movie. It's about a serial killer. I believe he's killing prostitutes. I don't really remember exactly, but he's killing women anyway. So Ewan McGregor gets a job at a morgue. He's just the security officer. But oh man, it's one of those creepy ones that has like the bell hanging above the bodies and stuff. Oh, it's terrifying. So then the guy that like passes off the job to Ewan McGregor is like showing him around, and Ewan McGregor's like, what are those for? And he's like telling him, you know, if somebody wakes up, and he's like, what do you mean? You know? So of course, inevitably somewhere in the movie, a bell goes off. So this isn't a supernatural movie. It's not a monster movie. It's a serial killer movie.
Okay.
But there's a really, really horrifying scene that involves that bell. And it's a little out there, but nobody talks about this one. And even trying to Google this one, it's hard to find this one.
Really?
Because there's another movie called Night Watch. I think it might even have Ethan Hawke in it, maybe. But yeah, you always get that one and you never get this one. So you have to, you know, type in Night Watch Ewan McGregor, Night Watch, whatever the year this one is. I don't know what that is.
So are these all movies like you've had in your collection for like since they came out, or are these ones that you've had to like hunt down and find?
These are movies that I bought over and over and over again. So I had a lot of these on VHS and I rebought them, except for The Salton Sea. I don't think I had that one on VHS. Maybe not Foxfire either. But I had to buy them multiple times, and I've specifically sought them out, specifically just to have them. But they all just have DVD releases. They don't have Blu-rays.
Wow. Because I thrift all the time, and I've heard none of these films or seen those covers in any of the thrifting I do. So
That's
I was
such
wondering,
a shame.
yeah. So
it
they
breaks
must
my
be
heart.
difficult to find then. So
yeah. So some of these, I literally had to go to the internet just to find them.
Okay.
And even like Gleaming the Cube wasn't easy to find. And like I said, that release, I don't even know what that release is.
Wow.
I don't know if it's a bootleg or what it is, but I just wanted it, you know. None of them were terribly expensive. They were, you know, in the $10 to $15 range, but I mean, clearly because nobody cares. This last one is the saddest one of them all, but it's Watchers. Actually, no, this one does have a Blu-ray release. I think it comes in a double pack with Watchers and Watchers 2, but it's OOP and it's incredibly hard to find. And when you do find it, it's like $1 million.
Wow.
So I just have the VHS release. But this is also a Corey Haim movie. And it's basically about this research center is trying to come up with the perfect war weapon. So they create this monster that is meant to follow this dog into battles, but for some reason in the clinical trials, the monster always ends up killing the dog. So they've done this over and over and over again with different monsters and different dogs. Well, this dog gets away. He's like, I'm out of here. He takes off and finds Corey Haim. Well, you know, obviously Corey Haim falls in love with him and wants to protect him. And then he finds out about this monster. So then, you know, the monster is still trying to kill the dog, and the Corey Haim's trying to save the dog. And it's a book. Yeah. A Dean Koontz book. But yeah, it's a fun little monster flick.
And another one of the Coreys gets represented.
Yeah. So. I've noticed there's a theme like Christian Slater, Ewan McGregor,
I noticed that.
The Coreys. I didn't realize I did that.
Nice. Cool. Well, the last question for you is, what 5 films bring you the most joy, hope, laughter? They put a smile on your face.
Okay, this one was kind of hard too, because there's a lot of movies I love to just watch. Several of these I don't have physical releases for, but the first one is Yes Man. It has Jim Carrey in it. Have you seen that one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's so fun. That movie just cracks me up. It just cracks me up. Like good. Jim Carrey's humor in that movie is hilarious. Like the part where he's in the bar and he kisses that chick and then he spits her gum out. I don't know. Hilarious. It's a hilarious movie. I love it. Makes me laugh. The next, oh wait, I do have 2 physical releases to show. The next one is After Midnight. So this is an Arrow release, and my boy Henry Zabrowski is in it. So I don't know if you ever listened to the last podcast on the left. It has these 3 guys in it, and they talk about true crime, kind of, and serial killer, like mostly heavy hitters, serial killers. But Henry Zabrowski is also an actor. So he's the reason why I checked this film out in the beginning.
Okay.
And it ended up being a really fun, it's kind of a love story, but it's also a monster movie, but it's also a comedy, but it's all, I don't know. Really? It's like all of these things intertwined into one. But this movie is worth watching for the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
Like the whole movie's good, you know, it's entertaining, it's building up. You can feel the movie's building up and building up to something, but it's building up to that last 10 minutes. And then I laughed so hard in the last like 30 seconds of this movie. But it just brought me so much joy in that last 30 seconds that I can't stop thinking about it. And I just recently watched this one like last year. So It's a new watch for me. I think it's even just a new movie in general. But for it to just always be on my mind all the time now, 2019 is just, It speaks volumes to what they were able to do in that movie.
Okay.
And then no list would be complete if I didn't mention The Burbs.
It's literally right here. We were going through the list and I was like, she hasn't said Burbs yet. Like it has to be coming. And if it wasn't, I was going to ask.
Gotta save the best for last.
There you go.
No, this movie has literally gotten me through my entire life. I say that this is my favorite movie of all time, which is true. It is true. But this movie took me through my whole life. So I watched this movie when I was a kid. I literally fought tooth and nail with my momster to give me that VHS. So I have it.
Cool.
The box is all torn up and everything, but I have it. And then when I got into high school and the DVD came out, I rebought the DVD and then I took it to college with me. And it's just, this is the movie that I fell asleep to every night. It was like, I lived in Chicago. I lived by myself in a studio apartment for 3 years, going to college. I did make friends and I had a group of friends there, but it's like every night I'm falling asleep in Chicago by myself. I'd always fall asleep to that movie. Literally every single night I fell asleep to this movie. I just pop it in. Sometimes I'd fall asleep before it even started. Sometimes I'd get 5 minutes into it. I like to say I've seen the beginning 100,000 times and I've seen the end maybe 10 times. But even now, I moved home from Chicago. I have a job. I live in a house. Like I still watch this movie. I don't fall asleep to this movie all the time anymore. I'm not that weird about it, but I'll watch it a couple times a year, you know, cool. And once I started my YouTube channel, I talk about it all the time. I literally
That's awesome.
talk about it. So that's it. That is my list.
Awesome.
I hope it wasn't too cheesy for you.
No, it was fantastic. Honestly, like, and as I was saying, like, there's so many films no one else has mentioned. So it's great because
that's awesome.
When people watch this, they're looking for films that they've never heard of, or films that they totally forgot about that they watched when they were a kid. And no one's mentioned them before. So, or in a long time. So
that's awesome. My goal, I hope people just start watching some of these movies because they need better releases.
Yeah.
We need a Gleaming the Cube. We need a Life Less Ordinary. We need a Salton Sea. We need another Watchers. Watchers came out once already, so it should be able to come out again. Okay. You know, like I want these releases to have better transfers and you know, these would be my choices.
Cool. Well, I know during the pandemic, like that was obviously new movies all got shut down, but it was amazing to see all of these catalog, these older titles that all of a sudden started getting releases that people cared about and love, but probably wouldn't have got any attention if new stuff had kept coming out consistently. So
exactly. Do you want to know what's funny is when me and my brother were kids, we grew up watching these movies, right? But then we would go to school and we'd talk about these movies and no one would know what the heck we're talking about. And we were like the weird kids liking the weird horror movies or whatever, you know, or I had some, you know, bestie friends that would come over and I would show them these movies that they had never seen and their parents maybe wouldn't let them watch. I don't know. But so my entire life, I was like, these are the indie movies nobody knows about, you know? But now that I'm on YouTube and I talk to all of these YouTubers that have similar childhoods to mine, all know about these movies.
Yeah.
And when these movies come out in the boutique labels, everybody wants them because they're their favorite movies. I'm like, I finally found my place in the world. You know, it's like, me too. Yeah. That's my favorite too. It's so ridiculous, but it's so true, you know?
Yeah. Now, how long have you been on YouTube for?
So this channel, it's been maybe a little over a year or just at a year, but I've been on YouTube, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or 2 years. I don't know. I don't remember how long ago I started the original one. But I wasn't consistent with it and I didn't really know what to do with it. It was like my starter.
Sure. Because I had the same experience you're talking about of like, you find your community. Like here, I don't have many friends who are interested in talking about Criterion films or know what Criterion films are, or interested in talking about anything from the 30s and 40s. And then you end up in this community and all of a sudden you meet a ton of other people who are just as passionate as you are. So it has been really cool. Mine started just about a year and a half ago. And when the pandemic began and when we're not supposed to be around anyone. So this became a community. So it has been pretty cool. And it is fun to meet people who have that same passion that probably don't live next door, you know, who are around you.
Exactly. Yeah. I have never met so many people from so many different walks of life. It's crazy, but it's also really awesome because I'll still go to work in my daily life, but then I'll be talking to all of my community, you know, and it's like my people in my daily life have no idea that I have all of these friends from all over the place, you know, even like Europe and stuff. It's crazy. It's awesome.
My wife calls them when I say, hey, I've got a Zoom meeting or I got to go record a conversation. She's like, who are you talking to? And I'll say, oh, it's somebody from whatever YouTube channel. Like, oh, your internet friends. And so she calls them my internet friends. And but some of the people I've met through Instagram and YouTube, I talk to every single day. And
yeah, exactly. I talk to some of you guys more than I talk to some of my friends that, you know, like I have,
it would be a little awkward. That's funny.
But that's funny too, is like, nobody that I know or that I hang out with really know that I do this. This is just kind of something that, that I do on the side. So when people find out about it, I'm like, oh yeah. Why do you watch? Yeah, you don't need to watch.
That's interesting. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, then all of a sudden I'm embarrassed, but you know, on here talking to complete strangers, I'm completely fine.
It is different. I had one friend who is a really good friend. We talk a lot. And I didn't promote this like on any of my like normal social media that I just have with family and friends. But somehow he found out about it. And he was so funny. He contacted me, he goes, hey, I found out you have a YouTube channel. I'm subscribing to it to support you, but just so you know, I'm never going to watch anything you put out. And I was like, cool, I appreciate that. I don't know how to take it, but thanks.
That is so true. That is so true. Because like my group of friends that I went to college with, I call them my Chi-Town crew. I told them all about this and the same thing. They're like, yeah, we support you. We'll like all your stuff, but yeah, they don't watch me and it's fine. It's fine. But it's funny how like my Instagram community and the YouTube community support me more than like my brother does, you know?
It's so Joe Martinez, he said that he was one of the first channels I started watching. And he said, I've met people here who become some of my closest friends. And when I heard him say that, I was like, that's not possible. Like, I thought that was so strange that you meet people on YouTube and they become your closest friends. Mm-hmm. But it's become genuinely true. Like I get contacted more. I get asked about how I'm doing sometimes, far more than the people I'm actually doing life with. And I consider them to be good friends. But for whatever reason, people in this community, I've just met some amazing people who genuinely care about you and check in on you. And so you're right. It is really unique.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just what happens when you meet people that are kind of they're not in the same walk of life you are, but you have something so much in common, something so specific, because it's not just about movies and it's not just about physical media. It's about YouTube and it's about the community and it's about, wanting physical media to stay alive. And it's, it's so much more than that. But I think that's what brings everybody together. So if somebody just disappears one day, everybody wants to know where they went, what happened to them, and if they're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a platform that, when you think back to the 80s or even the 90s, you could never have connected with all these people. So if you didn't know them in your school, you don't have any of this community. Mm-hmm. It's such a unique platform. But
it is. It really is.
Cool. Well, this was awesome. I really do appreciate you taking the time to answer these 5 questions and introducing me to Rockula. Which is...
Do you want to know what's funny is I think Ken did a stream where he was shopping the Scream Factory sale. And I was like, Rockula, buy Rockula. And he looked at it and he read it and he was like, I'm not buying that piece of crap. And I'm over here like, bought.
I will certainly be watching the trailer. Most likely not purchasing it, but watching the trailer.
I don't blame you. I won't blame you for that one.
Nice. Well, what do you have coming up on your channel that you can maybe let folks know about?
Well, my channel is just kind of random. I just come up with last minute ideas. I always have a new Blu-ray weekly update. I just go over the things that I bought, and it's not always physical media. Sometimes it's comic books. Sometimes it's, horror toys or t-shirts or something like that. I have that once a week, but mostly other than that, I always try and drop 2 videos a week. And then the other video is just like a fun, like, what do I want to do this week? What do I want to talk about? Do I want to do a movie review? Because every time I go to the theater, I try and do a movie review video for that movie because it's brand new and people want to know about it. Or I'll do what I call the hit list, which is my 10 recommendations of a certain theme. My last one was in 1984. So I just randomly do things. I do like a letterbox, end of the month letterbox watch list. What did I watch for the month kind of thing, where I give out recommendations there too. So 2 videos a week and whatever they end up being.
Nice. And I saw you're getting into vinyl now as well.
Yeah. So I randomly got a record player for Christmas. I didn't know I was getting it. It was kind of one of those Hail Mary gifts, I think. So I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Do I really want to start collecting records? But then I started getting a couple as a gift. And then Tim Taksaki's actually sent me the Burbs record, which I about died. And he wouldn't let me pay him for it. And he wouldn't let
That's cool. He's a good fella.
He's such a good dude. I couldn't believe he sent me that, but I mean, that's my favorite record now.
That's awesome.
So I have like maybe 3 or 4 records. I have the Burbs. I have Purple Rain. I had to buy Purple Rain. And then I got the Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell record after he passed away. I was like, oh no. I went online to see how much that record was. Of course, it skyrocketed after he passed. And I was like, man, I'll never get this. And well, somebody ended up getting it for me as a gift because they know how much Meatloaf means to me.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and I have the Lost Boys soundtrack coming in the mail. It's a pre-order because I think there's a special anniversary edition coming out where the record is like a translucent red or something like that. So it doesn't come out until April or something. So I'll have that one.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I'm barely dipping my toes in the water with vinyl. So we'll see. I collect a lot of things already.
I know. Tim told me that if I get into vinyl, Tim and Stephanie at Movie Tower, they both said if you get into vinyl, you'll become addicted and you'll look for it everywhere. And they were both exactly right. Now I go into movie store or like thrift stores and I'm genuinely conflicted. Do I go to the vinyl section first or do I go to the movie section first? And so they were right.
Yeah, this whole thing is just a terrible addiction because I can feel myself starting to do the same thing, because that's what happened when I saw that Lost Boys vinyl. Wasn't even looking for it. I think I saw it when I was looking up Meatloaf, and I saw it and I was like, ooh, what's this? Anniversary. Ooh, pre-order. Okay, let me pick this up.
I know. I promised myself to do only thrift store vinyl for like $1 each, and the first 11 or 12 were $1, and then I found Band on the Run, Paul McCartney, for $2, and I was like, oh, I'm breaking my rule, but it's $2. And I found a Duke Ellington album a couple days after that for $8, and I was like, oh, this is 8 times what I wanted to. So
yeah,
it's not breaking the bank or anything, but it broke my $1 rule. So, but again, Stephanie,
I am impressed you found that many for $1.
Yeah. But Tim and Stephanie, they're exactly right. You do. Yeah, it becomes an addiction. And I find it so relaxing to listen to vinyl. It's just a totally different experience than anything else. So,
yeah. My mom had a record player when I was a kid, and that's how I listened to some of my first bands. And Meatloaf was one of them, and Elvis, and a lot of 80s stuff too, like Journey, and God, what else was there? I forget who sings American Pie. She had that record. Anyway, she had just a crap ton of records, and that's how I heard all my first. She had 8-tracks too, and then she had cassettes. Yeah, so she still has all of those records too. She won't let me take them now. I have to wait.
Which is probably like a gold mine.
Yeah, my mom, she was the ultimate physical media collector, which is why this is happening to me too. But yeah, she collected vinyl and 8-tracks and cassettes and VHSs, but she's so old school now that that's all she still wants, you know, and it's hard to maintain that media now. Yeah. Because there for a while, you couldn't get your hands on a record player. And then when she would buy one, it wasn't the kind of record player she had when she was a kid, you know, like here's a, you know, almost like a factory toy version of a record player. Whereas hers, when she was a kid, was like this big stereo thing. And you know what I mean? So she suffers in that way. She's still old school physical media.
Wild. Wow.
Anyway.
Cool.
Stop mumbling on about things.
No, that's great. Well, thanks so much, Mel. I do really appreciate this. And this has been very cool. I have a huge list of trailers to now to watch through tonight.
Let me know what you think of Rockula.
Oh, I will. There'll probably be Instagram posts about it.
Yes.
Trailer reaction videos, you know, those kinds of things on the way.
Movie review.
Yeah.
Yes, I want it all.
Sure. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, if you, whoever's watching, please do subscribe, follow Mel, and all of those links will be down below. So thanks again.
Thank
you. I hope you have a great rest of your week. All right, friends, that is episode number 16. I hope you enjoyed it. A huge thank you again to Mel from My Killer Podcast. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me and give us these 25 film recommendations. Again, check out all of her social media links in the description box below. Subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff. Friends, we have more episodes coming very soon, so please do stay tuned. If you like this kind of thing, please do hit like, subscribe if you want more of this kind of content. Please do take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.